If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses, plus free delivery when you add a base. Ends Monday. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life sleep.
It's time for the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games at Southern Utah University in Cedar City. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of a Utah sports tradition at utahsummergames.org. Participate in over 50 sports around the state. Then plan to join the opening ceremonies Friday, June 5th, presented by State Bank of Southern Utah. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games.
DJ PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. We're joined now by Chris Karpman, Sun Devil Source, 24/7 Sports. Chris, good morning.
Good morning. How you guys doing?
We're doing well. Thanks for joining us for a spring football tour. We're trying to get Ute and Cougar fans, get them up to speed on the competition. And I think ASU is on the brink of being perennial competition. They put together two good years, one great year, but one good year. And I'm intrigued by the way the program is changing. I mean, times are changing, the rules are changing. But I was reading this summary of where the Devils stand after spring, and there's this line. Basically, the writer is saying. Dillingham has said that to move big, strong people, you need to have bigger, stronger people, and that the size difference this year appears obvious on the offensive line. We listen to Kyle Whittingham forever, and Kalani Sitake worked for him, so he thinks the same way. Win the O-line, win the D-line, everything else gets a lot more clear. It gets a lot simpler. I've always felt like Arizona State had great skill players, but the O-line, maybe. Depends on the year. What do you think about this O-line?
Yeah, if you really zoom out even more than that, Kenny Dillingham has talked for years about Kyle Whittingham's Utah program being his North Star. When he arrived at ASU, he said the discipline, the structure, the physicality, the ability to wear on your opponents at the line of scrimmage, that was what he was pursuing. That was what he was orienting his program to try to be. So They lost Maxi Hanachor, who was a first-round NFL draft pick at right tackle, and they also lost a few other guys that were starters or part-time starters. And even with that, their offensive line looks like it hasn't lost a beat. They added Tana Alo-Tupuola from Georgia Tech. He was a starter last year as a sophomore. Remember Haynes King. They had one of the best rushing attacks in the country. And Tana Alo-Tupuola was a really big factor in that. He reminds me a lot, in fact, of Lee Fautanu, who was ASU starting center 2 years ago in the Big 12 championship season. So that's a big development. Makai Stewart was a starter last year in the second half of the season at right guard as a true freshman, and he's one of the best-looking guard prospects that I've seen at ASU in recent decades. Like, he's an NFL guy, still young, but massive. He's like 350 or close to that pounds and 6'5", very physical, heavy hands. They have at tackle two guys returning who started in the Sun Bowl against Duke in Jalen Clem and Chance Westbrooks, both of whom are in a reasonably decent chance to be able to start this year. So the size and physicality really at both sides of the line of scrimmage and throughout the whole team, including in their secondary, getting longer and more athletic, it definitely noticeable this spring that continues to uptick.
We know they lost Sam Levitt to the big money of LSU, Raleek Brown to the big money of Texas, and Jordan Tyson to the big money of the NFL. Now, I know that they brought in a number of transfer receivers, including a kid from Colorado like Jordan Tyson, so they're extremely high on him and a couple other guys. quarterbacks. They brought in a kid who used to be at Fresno, a kid who used to be at Kentucky, started a New Mexico kid. They have a high school kid, and then the kid from El Paso. So they got a number of kids to choose from. And then I think at running back, they got Brown, the other Brown, Kyson, I think his first name is, back. He had an injury-plagued season. So could you just evaluate those three positions? Because those are three high-profile guys that they lost.
Yeah, exactly. Wide receiver looks to be in very good shape. Omarion Miller is a Colorado transfer. Jordan Tyson had transferred from Colorado also. Reed Harris transferred from Boston College. He's 6'5", 220, tremendous catch radius, had a very productive spring. He's different than guys at ASU's typically had. And then Raiden Vinesbright had 20-something catches last year as a true freshman at Washington. He's originally from Tempe. So that was arguably the top transfer trio wide receivers of any team in the country. Like Miller and Harris were both ranked in the top 5. So that's going to help ASU try to get past the loss of Jordan Tyson. And nobody's going to be as good as Tyson, but I think collectively they might actually end up being as good or better because they also returned Jalen Moss, who had a really big game in the Sun Bowl, and Jaron Hamilton, who's a big play guy, and Derek Eusebio, who's a good slot receiver. At running back, you nailed it. Like Raleek Brown, he cost like a lot of money, like probably more than what the rest of ASU's running backs combined cost between revenue share and NIL. And yet the group still looked very good. Kyson Brown got hurt, as you said, against Mississippi State. He had been the starter ahead of Raleek Brown at the beginning of last year before the injury. And he had a good spring. ASU added a kid named Marquise Gillis that I think people are going to come to learn a lot about. He ran for 1,100 yards last year at Delaware State, playing for Clinton Portis and Deshaun Jackson, and looked very good. In the second part of spring, he's 225 to 230 pounds, but still a good athlete, runs well. He's a hard dude to tackle. And they have Jason Brown, who had 130 rushing yards against Duke in the Sun Bowl. So they're, I think, going to be in good shape at running back, even with that loss. Quarterback, I think, is the most important position to evaluate on the team. Cutter Boley started as a redshirt freshman last year at Kentucky. Difficult schedule, super tough in the SEC. A little bit turnover prone. I think he had 10 interceptions and lost a few fumbles. So that's going to have to be managed. But he did a very good job in the second half of spring of avoiding any jeopardy throws in scrimmages that we saw, and looked like he's able to get the ball quickly to facilitate the offense, and he has the ability to get the ball down the field. He's 6'5", 220, big kid. So I think he's going to be the starter. I would say 80% likely that he's going to be the starter. Mikey Keene's a very good backup. He had started at Fresno State and UCF, and they have a freshman, Jake Fetty, from El Paso, who looks like a future star. He's actually quite similar to Sam Levitt in terms of his physical attributes, and his sort of talent level really, really pops. He's probably the second best looking true freshman that I've seen in spring ball in recent decades after Jaden Daniels.
We can talk about offense all we want, and I grew up watching Eric Coryell and the Chargers, so I can talk about offense all day long. But Texas Tech and BYU rode two really good defenses to the Big 12 title game. ASU was third against the rush. They were 13th against the pass. What has been done to upgrade the pass defense?
Yeah, they added a lot of experience and length. Free safety was a problem to some degree last year after Xavier Alford had a back injury that didn't allow him to play almost at all. And to try to improve that position, they added Lyric Rawls, who led Kansas in unassisted tackles last season. He's a senior veteran presence. He started at multiple Big 12 schools. I think he's come in and he immediately became a team captain, which is tough to do. So I think that's going to shore up that position. They added Ashton Stamps, corner from LSU. He was a 2-year starter, and then last year he was their number 3 corner, which at LSU is really nothing to slouch at. He was, I think, second in the SEC in 2024 in pass breakups. So with Keith Abney going to the draft, Javen Robinson going to Wisconsin, he's a really important player. They also have Rodney Bimage, who I think he's a sophomore. He's been one of their most talented young players on the roster, and I think he's kind of ready to step into a much bigger role and probably start. They added a few other transfer corners. The big thing is a lot more length. All these guys are over 6 foot, and they're longer bodied. Brian Ward, ASU's defensive coordinator, loves to play a lot of cover 3 zone, and he wanted to get guys that have more opportunity to get their hands in passing lanes and on the football. And then I think that they have a few other safeties that are very intriguing. Boogie Wilson, who started in place of Alford at free safety, will probably move down to play nickel. And Montana Warren's a team captain who's a very physical player. He's been a top backup in recent years, and he's got a very good chance now going into his junior season to play the strong safety position. Overall, I think that's kind of where they need to really show up, because I feel like their front 6 is in very good shape going into this year.
For a while there, they couldn't kick a field goal to save their lives. Last year, their punting team sucked. And so I know they had the one kicker was a senior. So tell us the status of their place kicking and their punting.
Yeah, you correctly said that. They were the worst punting team that I've ever seen. I think they were second worst nationally in net punting average. So it was awful. And Dillingham was extremely candid about his frustrations about that, and he has been the last couple of years. Their starting punter last year had a quad injury, and he was sort of like playing at maybe 80% for a lot of the year when he was able to play. But even when he was 100%, there were consistency issues, and especially with his field flipping and pin punting. And so they added Nick McClarty from Ohio State. He's an Australian. He was the backup early in his career at Ohio State. Huge leg. He's 6'7", 255 pounds.
Ooh.
And there were, I'm not exaggerating, there were like times when he hit 80+ yard punts. His consistency when they get into 11-on-11 settings in terms of how quickly he's able to go through the mechanics and get the football off, that's not as dialed in as you would want it to be. But I think he's making progress, and he has a chance to really upgrade that position.
Okay, well, I'm not going to go to the fridge for more food when ASU's punting then, because either he completely flips the field and it pins the other team and the defense. What an advantage for them, right? Or he gets it blocked and it's a score the other way. So I got to watch. I got to watch when ASU punts.
Yeah, no, it's true. When you're not worried about people coming at you, you can uncork pretty big ones consistently, and he did. But then, when you get the 11 guys out there,
it's different.
It was a little bit more inconsistent. Yeah,
it's different. Absolutely. Yeah, I back in the day I had some personal experience with that. I can attest that's all true. There's horrific stories.
Exactly.
Horrific. Yeah. On the whole, do people feel good enough about the direction of this program that they're going to invest in it? Because I think what we're seeing in college football now is the teams that are winning, I don't know how they do it, but somehow they get out, they find people with money, and they give. And when the team is struggling, there's a little doubt, people hold back their money. Sometimes they even say, well, I'm going to hold it back for 1 year because this coach is going to be gone. These are stories we're hearing out of Baylor, that there's money trees they can't shake because people don't completely buy into Aranda. So where does that sit? Because we know money's been a big issue with ASU.
Yeah, it's better than it's been at any point in this modern era that we're in right now. In fact, a booster named Brian Sweetie, who had been a senior executive at several major companies, including eBay and Pepsi, he's committed $10 million in an endowment that's going to be in King Dillingham's name that ASU is going to be able to utilize how it wants. And then there was also around a $10 million donation that's part of a naming rights gift that's going to be on ASU's new indoor practice facility, which they're going to break ground on here in the next few months. They sold out every game last year, and I think that there's more of an ability for Dillingham to connect with boosters than his predecessors by far. So I think that there's been a pretty marked uptick in terms of the amount of support. ASU had the top 15 to 20 transfer portal class in the country, which, as you guys know, that's not possible unless you have a little bit more money to throw around to some of those transfers. I don't think ASU is quite to the level of BYU probably at this point in terms of how flush it is with cash for its roster. And certainly not close to Texas Tech, but I would put ASU in the tier that would be below those teams, like among the other best teams in the Big 12. And I think that the roster is reflecting that.
Yeah, I think you did a podcast with that Sweetie, if I remember correctly, and I listened to it. It made me a little nervous. I know that he did a few podcasts, but when he started talking about how the offense needs to be a little more creative, that made me a little uncomfortable right there because, okay, donate your money, but don't tell me how to run a football team in a program.
Yeah, that's kind of funny. The backstory on that, though, is he has a very good relationship with Kenny Dillingham, like personal relationship. In fact, he is hosting ASU staff and some other people at his home for a party in next weekend. And so there's and another aspect about Dillingham is he's extremely self-critical and very much willing to listen to people's perspectives to challenge his way of thinking. So I think that Brian Sweetie kind of goes in that mode. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that coaches really want to hear from boosters about their football opinions. Generally, I get that. I think in this particular case, though, it's given their relationship, as I understand it, I don't think it's that big of a deal.
That is hilarious, though. I like that. Although if they have that kind of relationship, he might be quoting Kenny. He might literally be quoting him. Like Kenny's like, I want to open it up. But you got to have the right guys before you open it up. So there might be that kind of conversation. Who knows?
Yeah, it's funny. During spring ball, Kenny ran over to Jalen Strong, former ASU star wide receiver, who I was talking to at the time, and he said, some words to that effect, basically, about certain types of throws and routes and whatever. I don't want to give away too much, but because it's a private thing. But I think that there's some truth to what you just said.
Yeah.
The recruiting news this week was big with the Hildebrand kid. One of the Chandler schools. I can't remember which one. He's the number one player in the state for what it's worth. And that's the first time since N'Keal Harry. Now, N'Keal Harry, I believe, was raised by his grandmother over there in the East Valley and wanted to stay local. I listened to Hildebrand. He's talking about his grandfather wants to see him play, served in multiple U.S. wars and all that stuff. So a very patriotic man there. I'm wondering, is that a circumstantial thing or more of a kind of sign of the times that finally there's a breakthrough with the Sun Devils being able to recruit some of the better players locally?
Yeah, you guys do a very good job of digging in the crates to find all of the really important things that are going on. I'm impressed. I would say it's a combination of both. His family, his grandfather has ASU season tickets. I talked to him for a while the other day. He has been going to ASU football games since 1961, and Jake Hildebrand's family is extremely close-knit and very grounded, and I think that the ability to have that support system be close to him for college was very important to him and his dad. I think it mattered a lot to him, who's been extremely involved in his athletics career to this point, and Jake grew up going to ASU football games, and it mattered a lot. But then also he said to me, look, Maxie Honachor didn't even play high school football, and 4 years later he's getting drafted in the first round, and that's not possible without the development of ASU's offensive line coach, Songa Tuitele, who's done a very good job and turned down USC and some other big jobs. He's as good as any offensive line coach that I've seen at ASU when you're factoring in the evaluations, the recruiting, the development piece, schematics. So I think, there's there's a little more interest in ASU locally. It's still very tough to get the top players, especially when a lot of them are being offered more money to go elsewhere. But the way that the local recruits perceive the Sun Devils has definitely changed under Dillingham's tenure.
Well, forget that old cliche, recruit the mom, recruit the grandparents. That seems to be paying off.
Yeah. I mean, when you can. That's
right,
the
yeah, when you
idea.
can, sure. Yeah. All right, well, Chris, we appreciate – one last thing before I let you go. PK is an ASU grad, so that's part of the reason – it's a big part of the reason we're so dialed in on the program. And one of his theories – and I'll ask this so it doesn't sound as bad as when it comes out of his mouth. One of his theories, though, is both Arizona and ASU have had problems keeping local guys home. Both of them have had big years but have had problems sustaining it. But there's actually – maybe there's an opportunity here. Do you think there's a chance that – Arizona can follow up what they did last year and ASU can follow up what they did the last 2 years? That would be kind of a high watermark for the two programs together.
Yeah, I haven't studied Arizona's roster departures and arrivals quite as well. I think that they probably are not going to take a big step back, if it is at all. I think ASU looks definitely like a bowl team. It's hard to really compare that to what other Big 12 teams look like right now because we're in this world in which the transfer portal changes so much. So, but look, Dillingham is really good. I can't stress enough. Like I've gotten to know these coaches personally. The last 5 ASU football coaches, he's superior. Like he's easily more impressive when you actually get into the weeds on issues and you talk about things at any level of depth. I think he's competitive, hungry. He could have gone to Michigan. I don't know how clearly that's been really reported, but Michigan aggressively courted Kenny Dillingham before hiring Kyle Whittingham. Not saying that he's a better coach than Kyle Whittingham by any stretch, but he is a lot younger and of the same ilk in a lot of ways. And Dillingham decided to stay, and he did that because of the support that he feels like is in place at ASU and the opportunity that they have in the Big 12. So I don't really see ASU taking any sort of a big dip to the backward, even after losing so many starters.
Chris, we'll leave it right there. We appreciate it. Thanks for joining us. That was a great conversation.
Thanks, guys.
Chris Karpman, Sun Devil Source, 24/7 Sports. You know, the thing you got going for you, PK, if you take off your media hat and just put on your one of your 47 ASU caps, is that I do think there's a chance, especially with the quarterback coming back at Arizona, there's a chance here Arizona and Arizona State could both be good again. But where you've got the upper hand is you got a guy with local ties. I totally buy the Michigan stuff, and I buy it for exactly the reason Chris just said. Why would you get Kyle if you could get a similar version of Kyle who's 20 years younger? And let's face it, the biggest difference between the two, Kyle's probably better at putting defenses together. And by probably, I mean he is. But when it comes to grooming a quarterback and transforming a guy who's got some talent but he's not quite on point, you'd obviously go to ASU, right?
Yeah.
He's got the track record.
For sure.
And with the importance of quarterback and the fact that you got somebody who's a generation younger, of course he'd be the first guy you'd go to. But if you're looking for a certain specific type of coach, you wouldn't go to 5 guys before you got to those 2. I mean, there's probably somebody else out there I'm not thinking of off the top of my head right now. But why would they not be 2 of the top 3 or 4 coaches you speak to? They're exactly what Michigan needed. And the younger guy is busy handing food over the fence, so he doesn't take the job. And the older guy is like, well, I just got a $13 million buyout to go away. Yeah, let's do it. So I totally get why it played out. Arizona may not be able to hold their guy, though. He didn't have the local tie.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. He does have a little bit of a tie to Tucson. But I think we need to note that I think that Kyle wasn't necessarily Michigan's second choice because I don't think he was officially available when they were interviewing or pursuing Dillingham. Yeah. It came after the fact. He resigned after Dillingham, if I have my timeline right, after he said no.
Yeah.
So he wasn't, it's like, well, we chose this guy, but he didn't choose us. So we went to our second pick.
Yeah.
I think Kyle
Literally
hadn't
wasn't
made a decision. They basically, Utah hadn't told him, we don't want you here.
Right.
Yet.
All right, DJ and PK, when we come back, the headlines. What you missed in this show. Next, stay with us.
Nerds! Today's episode is sponsored by NerdWallet's Smart Money Podcast. Personal finance can feel like a pop quiz you didn't study for. This podcast is your study guide. On NerdWallet's Smart Money Podcast, you'll hear from trusted journalists who explain the why behind major financial decisions. You'll get research-backed insights and clear pros and cons, whether you're planning a big purchase or just want to grow your wealth. Make your next financial move with confidence. Follow NerdWallet's Smart Money Podcast on your favorite podcast app.
Slacker Radio headlines are brought to you by Trajan Wealth. Call Trajan Wealth today, your local trusted financial fiduciary. Call them at 1-855-TRAJAN1 or visit the website at TrajanWealth.com. Time to get you up to date on everything we missed in this show. Pablo Mastroeni joined us, RSL head coach. Talked about the last game in Minnesota before the 7-week break for the World Cup. It's been a heck of a run here. If they win on the road in Minnesota, and they have not been good on the road, and Minnesota has not been good at home, so that's weakness versus weakness there. But if they were to win, that'd be 28 points in 14 games, and that would be quite a start. 2 points a game would easily be the club record, put them on pace for 68. The record is 59. A couple of years ago, Pablo had a 59-point team. So they've been flying here at the start, but it's a long break. We don't know if Diego Luna and Xavier Gozo are going to the World Cup, nor do we know what will happen when we hit the summer transfer window. Gozo's been talking about going. Will there be a big money offer? So a lot of question marks, Pablo, a lot of question marks, but a great start for RSL, especially if they can put the exclamation point on it tomorrow.
Though, I mean, he's openly spoken about it.
Yep. He wants to go, and it'll be interesting what his attitude is if he doesn't go. So we'll see what the number is.
Well, okay, but you don't go this year doesn't mean you're never going to go. I mean, just continue to ball. I mean, that's the controllable spiel.
Yep.
I mean, you've taken this team by storm here. He's not even 20 years old yet, is he?
He's not. He's 19. Just turned 19. Right. He'll turn 20 next season. If he's here next season.
There's all sorts of time for whatever you want to accomplish, but be a literal true hometown hero. Yes,
Eagle Mountain, Utah, and he's got friends and family. Still lives at home. He's a 19-year-old. It's amazing. But 6 goals, 4 assists. He's leading the team and tied for the lead in goals and second in assists and number 1 when you add them together in goal contributions. The 10 is tops. So that game is tomorrow at 2:30. You can hear that one here on the Zone. Now, we talked with David Locke about the NBA draft. So many pieces to the puzzle, PK. He did bring up if Washington can figure out the health question with Peterson, that the season started with Peterson number 1. And when he is on, he is wildly gifted. I mean, his talent is obvious. If he missed like 10 games, and some of the games he played weren't on TV and they weren't against anybody. But if you caught one of the 10 or 12 games he played against pretty good competition, you saw him catch fire, when I saw it, I was like, well, that's why everyone's saying good things about that guy. I mean, it's obvious. It's overwhelming.
Well, I had gone back well before his Kansas tenure and looked at him because he was gaining such steam there in the world of college basketball, the world of NBA basketball, high school basketball. And if you're looking for a wing guy, he's a complete package. Whatever you want in a wing, he can do, and do at a very high level. So be it. And if they don't get him, then take who's available. If they get him, great. And he should be a big-time player. And the funny thing is this injury spiel, that's the only thing preventing him from being number 1, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
I think he's the purest player available. And so you would take that. And Washington decides he's good to go, they'll take him. And then you decide between Boozer and DeBonsa. And if he is not taken, then you decide between Peterson and Boozer, unless there's some other type of trade. But we'll wait until that happens before we think, okay, that's a solid. Right now, they're going to get a good player. And then that player determining upon what his work ethic is and how he fits in and all sorts of stuff, can end up being a 10-year starter for this team. There's no doubt in my mind.
And don't sleep on Boozer was his other message. Like Boozer, especially if he's on a team where you can get all 5 guys away from the hoop, just borderline impossible to defend one-on-one. I mean, it's not a one-on-one contest. They had those a long time ago, and I wouldn't mind if they brought him back. I think it'd be awesome. They're not going to, but it would be cool if they did. But he's got pretty much everything, and his game reminds me so much of his dad's game. He's doing it with a little more size, though, and probably it'd be interesting to talk to Carlos about that because it all runs together after a while. Like, does Cam have more polish at this point in his career than Carlos did at the same age?
Yes.
I remember more Carlos later.
I think that
it's the way basketball's evolved.
Yes, and you're playing in such high-level stakes at a much earlier age, and the training and all that stuff, everything is advanced. It's why we see quarterbacks being able to come in and they don't have to sit for 3 years. They can hit the field. Not all of them, obviously, but there's been plenty of them. Bo Nix being a great example of having the opportunity and succeeding virtually immediately because of what they've been through and all of the off-season training. I think that it's hard for me right now to think that Cameron Boozer's footwork was as good as Carlos's because Carlos had to do that. He was a little undersized for his position. And so you go back and look at some of his tapes, which I've done, and Carlos was right there, a smaller version of like a McHale, he can go left, go right, to do all these things with his feet to put himself in position. I think Cameron might have more range, but Carlos wasn't asked necessarily to do that. That wasn't the level of the game back then when Carlos played, which is not that long ago, but nevertheless, there's been a change to where you were supposed to be a low block guy and you often got the ball with your back to the basket and then turned around. Not Carlos could shoot the face up. There's no question about it. He was skilled offensively. I think Cameron, face up wise, is probably a little more skilled because he's been able and allowed to do it. And so he developed that. You have to develop that portion of your offensive game and arsenal because that's what the game now requires.
Carlos was really good when he faced up at 15 feet. He just wasn't asked to do more than that. But I can see him hitting free throw line jumpers, nonstop. And then just to your point, the age difference, and Steve Cleveland said he saw this. He would go watch his grandkids play when he's still living in Fresno and coming on our show. And his grandkids are like 8, 10, 12. And he says literally the whole team empties out the ball bag and everybody goes straight to the three-point line before the coach says anything. They don't hit the layup, hit the 8-footer, hit the free throw, and then go out. The way all the coaches, he said, I've told kids to do that, and that's just not what kids do anymore. And that's the generation that Cameron's in. So he took Carlos's skill from the 15-footer and immediately backed it out to the three-point line. So he's a massive weapon. And I get it if he still goes 3, but, man, sitting there at 3, Memphis could get really fortunate.
Jordan went 3.
Right, yeah. But there aren't that many guys who went 3 who are going to come in as accomplished as Boozer. And then it's where do you take it from there, obviously. But, man, it's the right draft to have been a bad team. So, yeah. All right. That's some of what we were talking about. The Cavs, that was a letdown. The Knicks went on that 18-0 run in the third quarter. It was over. Cavs didn't punch back. They got off the deck in the same situation after losing twice in Detroit and won at 7. Seems like a bigger ask and doesn't seem like something you should be trying to do in back-to-back series. But they did that experience to draw, and we'll see if they pull it off. Game 2 tonight in the West, Thunder and Spurs. I expect it's 2-2 when we get back here Tuesday morning after the holiday weekend, PK. What do you think?
2-2? Yep. Yeah, we shall see. I mean, I probably would go if you gave me the options, which is 1-3, 3-1, 2-2. I'd probably go 2-2 because there's a sliver of difference so far. Yeah. Who plays better in each game will determine who wins. They could play best of 9, best of 11, and I would probably still say the same thing, however many games you wanted to put in there.
David Locke, listen wherever you get your podcasts. He came on and said he was surprised they played 20 guys in the first quarter of game 2 because coming off a double overtime game, everybody was flying out there because they know you just can't give away possessions. A lot of NBA games you can in the first quarter. There's time to recover. But these two teams are too good and too evenly matched. And so there's this sense, better not mess around and give something away. Could come back to bite us.
Yeah, and I think both know, hey, if we win this series, there's a really good chance we're hoisting that trophy.
Yep, I think they both think that for sure. All right, your feedback next. Stay with us.
Nerds. Today's episode is sponsored by NerdWallet's Smart Money Podcast. Personal finance can feel like a pop quiz you didn't study for. This podcast is your study guide. On NerdWallet's Smart Money Podcast, you'll hear from trusted journalists who explain the why behind major financial decisions. You'll get research-backed insights and clear pros and cons, whether you're planning a big purchase or just want to grow your wealth. Make your next financial move with confidence. Follow NerdWallet's Smart Money Podcast on your favorite podcast app.
Join Scotty G and the coach, Tim Lacombe, Tuesday from 10 to 2. Only half the show. 10 to 2 at RGS Exteriors, 4235 Farm Road in West Jordan. RGS Exteriors. Question of the morning, Steve Sarkisian, presumably referring to Texas Tech, says Texas backups would probably go undefeated playing Tech schedule this year. How about that? Brian, he can say whatever he wants. No, and he'll never have to prove that. Good point. He could just pop off.
Yeah, I think he's politicking, and he's a little perturbed that Texas Tech has stolen the spotlight. No, I have never been to Lubbock, but I've been to Austin multiple times for work, and it's a fine place. And Terry South, our old producer, said Lubbock isn't.
That
he
was
served a mission there.
He says it's dusty and it's windy. Two things you need to know about Lubbock.
I had a
the wind's going to
roommate.
blow, and the dust from outside of town and the farms and the hills, they're going to blow in.
My college roommate from BYU served a mission in the Lubbock mission, and let's just say swore up and down he'd never be visiting again.
Yeah, so here's this upstart, and it's not sitting well. And the pressure with Texas
It's huge.
is always enormous. You just can't win. You got to win big. You got to win Heisman's. You got to win everything that there is possible to win. You have to win, right? And I've been in that stadium and been in that community, as I say, and it's just, it rivals anything. I mean, everything is bigger in Texas because it's true, especially football.
Wait a minute. Everything's bigger in Texas. I thought New York. Everything's bigger in New York. Wait a minute. Now I'm confused.
Well, that's what they say, but certainly not college football is not bigger in New York. I can guarantee you that.
No, I can guarantee you that one. But both those places are just pretty sure that they're the center of the universe. And obviously the center of the universe is wherever we are, PK, clearly.
Well, my wife is the center of my universe.
That a kid. Bravo. I can feel Jackie rolling her eyes right now. Amber says talking schedule strength after sweating out a win over Vanderbilt is nasty work. That's a good line, Amber. I do want to say this, though. I think in this whole era of NIL, if there's one team I have more respect for than I had 5 years ago, it's Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt. Would it be Indiana?
Well, I'll tell you why Vanderbilt.
Okay.
Vanderbilt, although Indiana's right there, you're right. But Vanderbilt got drilled for years in the SEC. For years, right? They're just terrible. And now NIL's legit, and all of a sudden Vandy grads are throwing money out there left and right. They're not the little sister of the poor. All of a sudden they're out there winning 9 games. They get a winning record in the SEC, and even when they lose, Texas is sweating. It's like everybody in that league was cheating, and everybody knew it. And Vanderbilt knew it. And they stuck and said, you know what? We're Vanderbilt. We're not going to cheat like everybody else. They didn't go on probation like everybody else, and they certainly didn't win like everybody else. But as soon as it was legit, they're like, yeah, let's do it. Like, they really stuck to their guns, PK, and they took beatings, and there could have been an easy way out. There could have been the, hey, everybody else is doing it. And everybody else was doing it in the SEC. I got a lot more respect for Vandy. And you're right, Indiana's completely changed their place in the football universe. So I don't want to dismiss Indiana. But Vanderbilt, amidst the SEC and all the crazy stories we've heard, they never got in trouble and they never won, and they were fine with it. But now that the rules are different, they're like, let's do it. And they are.
Yeah, I can see where you're going with that. I would go with El Paso because they've sucked forever and they know they're going to suck and they're not going to change.
They still show up for the Sun Bowl.
Like that kid that Chris Karpman was talking about, the freshman who reminds him of Sam Levitt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he grew up in El Paso and played high school ball in El Paso. So if you ever get a kid, he's going to leave.
Yeah, I can't tell you anything about Lubbock because I haven't been there, but I can tell you about El Paso. That doesn't look like it's easy. We would fly in there when UC Santa Barbara had to go to Mexico State. You fly in El Paso, you stay overnight, you drive 45 miles to Las Cruces, you play there. Nothing. Everything looks dry and windy in that part of the world.
It's where I said hello to Meg Ryan in the gift shop at the El Paso Marriott.
You and your brushes with greatness, man. You got like 100 of them. I got nothing. I'm just walking around. These average people going through their lives.
She was out there filming a movie in the desert, and they were all staying at the Marriott, and the Utes were there. And I bump into Mark Rydalsh. Hey, do you know who's downstairs? And all of us, we go running downstairs.
Meg in El Paso, pop stars, rock stars in the elevator in Las Vegas, John Stockton at an elevator in San Francisco, Hervé Villachez at dinner at your parents'. I mean, you got a million of these stories. You got nothing.
What can I say?
Reed said Steve Sarkisian is just posturing. Reed's like, yeah, this is how college football works. It's the offseason. Dude's lobbying, whatever. Reed's grounded. He's shaking it off.
Well, I think he's also recruiting in the state. It's all sorts of stuff there that you still want to come here. We're still the big dog. They got this money, but it's not like Texas is little sisters of the poor financially by any stretch.
Yep.
So Sarkisian, give him credit, man. He's bringing attention to his program, and he must feel like he's got a level of security in order to start saying this stuff, right?
Yeah, or a level of insecurity, and he needs to say it. He needs to lobby because they're giving him a lot of money and they want him in the playoff.
But that's recruiting is lobbying. It's selling.
Yeah,
It's salesman. It's that type of stuff that you have to do all the time.
We're all done. We're out of time. Scotty G and the coach are next right here on The Zone.
Thumbtack presents Tile Trouble. Every single time I use my sink, I make eye contact with the uneven grout on my kitchen backsplash. The crooked corners eye me, and I'm haunted by more tiling questions than I thought possible. What kind of pro can fix a backsplash? Can I replace one cracked tile, or should I replace them all? What if I just use Thumbtack? I can hire top-rated pros, read reviews, and compare prices with a tap, all on the app. Thumbtack knows homes. Download the app today.
Summer is all about freedom, fun, and growing up. And between the ages of 9 and 13, kids are starting to form their views about alcohol. With more independence, their still developing brains need more guidance and support than ever. That's why summer is the perfect time to stay connected and plan fun, safe family activities together. Research shows kids who spend quality time with their parents doing what they enjoy are less likely to drink underage. And when kids feel close to you, they're more likely to listen, especially when you set clear expectations. In fact, kids who drink before 15 are far more likely to struggle with alcohol later. This summer, create a no-bummer summer with fun, alcohol-free activities for your kids. Go to summer.parentsempowered.org to take a quick quiz and discover ideas tailored to your family. A little time together can make a big difference. For more information and to learn more about how to prevent underage drinking, visit parentsempowered.org.